I'm Dave Rehn. I'm Executive Vice President with ENMAX. I have responsibility for generation and wholesale energy. Well, ENMAX today has two segments: a regulated side, which controls the distribution and parts of the transmission in Alberta. We also have an unregulated business that trades electricity, provides retail electric and gas products. Well, we believe that we will continue to see growth for both generation coming from wind and gas as a fuel type for gas-fired generation. Those two work well hand in hand. The gas-fired generation is not only efficient, a low emitter of various pollutants, but it also is one that can be turned on and off very quickly, and then it can coincide then with the variability that we see in wind generation. Likely we'll see the introduction of additional storage capabilities, most notably through battery technologies, which continue to improve. And we believe we'll see a further reduction in the dependence on coal as a fuel type. Well, we today own 180 megawatts of wind generation. We control a total of about 215 megawatts. We're also have built and are continuing to build new gas-fired generation facilities. That is in part to meet our future needs that we see from our retail operation, as well as to prepare us for when some of our longer-term power purchase agreements will expire. Those today are sourced from coal-fired facilities. Again, we believe cogeneration plays an important role in that mix as well. That's where we site our plants close to not only the electric load, but also load for thermal, whether it be large office buildings in downtown Calgary or other industrial uses where thermal needs in an industrial process exists. So with that in mind, we are building new facilities in Calgary to provide district heating, to displace the individual heating components that we find in office buildings, and also building new gas-fired generation plants where our waste heat, which would normally be heat that would go up the stacks, can now be routed directly to industrial customers to displace their use of natural gas-fired boilers or other sources of heat. Well, I think both private and the government sector, there's a couple of things that probably are important to advance renewables, advance cogeneration. I think it starts with creation of a level playing field and transparency. By that I mean, what are the costs associated with such things as transmission? On fuel types, what are the royalties that are charged for each fuel type, and indeed are they today structured for a preferential treatment of one fuel type over another? We get into defining what are the true costs of externalities, which can be any of the pollutants that are produced in the process of creating electricity from different fuel types. Many of those have been in the news lately, most notably carbon dioxide. Once we establish what those costs are from a societal standpoint, that can then be introduced into this equation. Lastly, we need stability. Any private sector investment generally is longer than just a few years when you're talking about energy assets, and having an understanding of the true costs, having an understanding of what certain externality costs will be over the long term, I think is going to cause folks to make different decisions as to utilization of different energy sources such as renewables. I think the three ingredients are the creation of absolute transparency in cost. Some of that, I think, also needs to manifest itself in terms of time of day pricing for the electric product, so that the end user more clearly understands the true cost of whether they're using electricity at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 2 a.m. in the morning. That, again, then allows people to make more informed choices. It also creates that level playing field such that technology such as solar, which could have a huge impact, say, on air conditioning loads in the province. If that cost of generation for the hours in which solar exists were actually passed through, that would drive, I think, different utilization techniques or approaches by the customer, and would allow certain technologies then to compete against the current forms. So it's elimination of subsidies, transparency in costing or pricing of certain alternatives, and then a bit of stability in terms of once we've established what certain costs or taxes, such as a carbon tax or whatever, I think that will allow some of these to then emerge. Well, in the province today, there are a variety of approaches to setting up and establishing infrastructures, basic infrastructures. Some of those seem to favor certain fuel types. Anytime you tend to subsidize one fuel type or one form of generation versus another, you create that unlevel playing field. We at ENMAX believe that there will be a need for central generation, but there's also going to be a need for decentralized generation, which can get down to the micro level. And I think allowing both of those to coexist and compete makes an awful lot of sense from the standpoint of efficiencies. The efficient use of our fuel is becoming ever clearer to us. For a long time, we weren't as concerned about efficiencies, somewhat because of the cheap cost of the basic energy product, whether it be coal or gas. Likewise, I don't think we really priced the true cost of our pollutants, the externality costs. We know it has potential impacts on public health. We believe it may also go as far as having impacts on the climate, and knowing what those societal costs are, I think go a long way then to providing that kind of level playing field.